Good evening, Mayor Bates and City Council members. I'm Liz Williams with Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights. We're a nonprofit public health organization here in Berkeley. Thank you very much for your ongoing support for public health. And tonight I encourage you to adopt the proposed ordinance to prohibit the use of e-cigarettes and other electronic smoking devices in places that are required to be smoke-free within Berkeley. Communities around the country are choosing to not allow the use of electronic smoking devices in smoke-free environments in order to protect workers, patrons, and other bystanders from breathing the aerosol that these products emit. E-cigarette companies and supporters claim that the aerosol is a harmless water vapor, but unfortunately that's not the case. There is a growing body of published scientific research that shows that the aerosol is a new source of air pollution, and it contains nicotine, ultrafine particles, including silicates and metals, and toxins that are known to cause cancer, including benzene, formaldehyde, and lead. There's also new published research coming out on a monthly basis about the components of that e-cigarette liquid, as well as the biological impact of the aerosol on the body. In Berkeley, our workplaces and public places have been free from tobacco smoke for decades now, and it does not make sense to allow a new form of indoor air pollution. We know enough about the health concerns about the aerosol to take action. Allowing e-cigarette use in smoke-free spaces may also undermine the tremendous progress that has been made about not smoking in ways that harm other people and denormalizing tobacco use to help prevent young people from becoming addicted to nicotine. So I encourage you to follow the lead of 188 other communities in 3 states that have added e-cigarettes to smoke-free laws, including San Francisco, Los Angeles, Richmond, and Walnut Creek. So on behalf of our members in Berkeley, I urge you to support this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Justin Newman. I'm a former smoker. I have switched to vaping. I've done a number of these council meetings, state meetings. I tend to focus on the state level. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is that California already forbids the sale of electronic cigarettes and e-liquid to minors. The sale of minors is the important topic here. And by the way, I want to say I'm sick, and I apologize for that. Right now, we have an issue with enforcing compliance on the underage usage ban. I'm worried that this indoor air ban is also going to be an enforcement issue. I think it's more appropriate for the state to take this up. I know that the FDA is also working on a national set of regulations around that. If we're not able to enforce the laws that we already have on the books, how are we expected to enforce these new laws? And I'll cut it there.
Okay, next, please.
Hi, Mayor and Councilman. Just wanted to say that with electronic cigarettes and vaping, we're in Berkeley, California, and it's one of the most progressive cities in the nation. And we have a truly disruptive technology here that can get rid of tobacco smoke and regular cigarettes. And just banning electronic cigarettes is kind of putting it in the background and putting getting cigarettes, keeping people to continue smoking cigarettes, where if they keep vaping, they can get off the cigarettes and tobacco.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, City Council members. Joseph Friedman with the Tobacconist Club at Berkeley City College. So I'm against the e-cigarette, because I'm against any kind of smoking of the e-cigarettes, because what happens if a parent is walking with their kid, the parent's smoking an e-cigarette, and the kid has to breathe in those fumes. The fumes from the e-cigarettes have all kinds of chemicals in them, and Kids should not have to breathe that stuff in.
Okay, next, please.
My name is Carol Denny, and I do work with Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights, but I'm here because I live in multi-unit housing. And this otherwise wonderful proposal has a big exclusion for multi-unit housing within the enclosed area of a unit in multi-unit housing. I have to say, all these people who are congratulating themselves for having switched to, quote, vaping, are still sucking down the nicotine, exhaling the nicotine, and that nicotine is going right next door. Please keep this in mind. It's really important that you consider that there are many, many ways now, if you're attuned to the cannabis industry and certainly the tobacco industry, there are patches, there are edibles, there are lozenges, so many ways that people can ingest nicotine and cannabis and anything else they want to induce into their own system without affecting the children next door. And where I live next to two people who smoke tobacco and e-cigarettes and cannabis. And all of that stuff comes out into our shared air and through the walls to not just me, a 3-time cancer survivor, but to the children who live on the other side of them. These people will catch on. They'll need to. But we need you to do what I think it is 188 other cities have done and show some leadership, because it will never come from the state level. Those of us who know tobacco politics know that. Thank you so much for your forward thinking on this issue. I really appreciate your courage. Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Moni Law, and I'm here to agree to the opposition of e-cigarettes that I smell when I walk downtown. Berkeley Municipal Code 12.70 would prohibit that because it is currently prohibited to smoke downtown. Adding e-cigarettes or vaping would, of course, clarify that, but I don't know how many times that I tell you that I walk by people, particularly in front of the International Language Institute, where there are about 20 people clustered there smoking regular cigarettes as well as electronic cigarettes. I usually take a little business card that the Chamber of Commerce created that says smoking downtown is illegal. You can be fined $240 per incident. And I also call the police and ask them to please enforce the current law. I think you do definitely need to add the e-cigarette. Also, I agree, and I give all the honor amazingly to cancer survivors, and my heart goes out to those who are still exposed to potential cancer, so I would hope we would prevent that. It should, I think, apply to common areas in multi-unit I don't know how it's drafted. I haven't seen the full language, but the common areas of multi-unit apartments, like mine down the street, should also prohibit e-cigarettes, is my understanding, as well as the interior of the apartment units. So with all due respect, please pass this and protect the community. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Alexandra Nelson. I'm with the American Lung Association, and I'm also the co-chair of the City of Berkeley's Tobacco Prevention Coalition. The last time that I was here and I spoke on this issue, I told you that my 10-year-old son came home from school and told me that e-cigarettes were just pretend smoking, which is a very scary thing for me. The other thing I was thinking about while I was sitting here and listening to everyone else's testimony is, if this isn't passed, someone could sit right here in this room with us and be vaping, and it would be perfectly legal for them to do so because there isn't any ordinance in place that says that they can't. And that's a pretty strange notion to me, that I could be sitting, you know, in a city council meeting and someone would be able to vape right next to me, which looks exactly like smoking. So the issue with the social problem of bringing back and introducing these products is that everyone looks at it and sees smoking. Vaping or smoking, it doesn't matter. It's nice to make a clear line between where this is allowed and where it's not allowed. And they've already seen in the staff report that it has been proven that there's carcinogens and other dangerous things in the emissions from e-cigarettes. So please, I urge you to pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Serena Chen with the American Lung Association.
I was looking over the staff report and the findings, and since those findings came out, a new CDC report came out and found that youth uptake of e-cigarettes has tripled instead of doubled since 2011. And the other more alarming fact is the fact that before, only 20% of the youth who were using e-cigarettes were had not used tobacco. But now over half of the kids using e-cigarettes had never intended to use tobacco, and they see the e-cigarettes as a new toy and a new tool. And I'm thinking about Alex's young son, Lars, who said they're play or fake cigarettes, which is exactly what people do. Before they try out the real thing, they play and experiment with the unreal thing. And what we're finding out is that of the youth who were using e-cigarettes who had never used tobacco before, over half of them said they intended to try real cigarettes in the near future. So today I received a recently published peer-reviewed study in a scientific journal that showed that there are measurable levels of nicotine particles in the e-cigarette emissions, which mixes with common household pollutants, forming third-hand smoke. And third-hand smoke is the carcinogenic dust that little children and other people ingest when you have second-hand smoke and then third-hand smoke in people's homes. And since that report, I think we said it was like 270 different brands. Now there are 500 different brands, and there are 7,700 different flavors. They have not been able to prove any of the claims that e-cigarettes help people quit smoking. And the FDA, we keep pointing to the FDA. The FDA can only regulate new products. The FDA will never regulate where they can be used. And the bill that was in the state Senate was killed by the e-cigarette industry to regulate it in secondhand smoke banned areas. Thank you.